I want to tell you a story about a cave, not a scary fairy tale. A real story about a real cave in Uganda inside Queen Elizabeth National Park. It is called Python Cave. And right now, in May 2026, scientists are raising the alarm. This cave could be the starting point of the next pandemic. In 2025, researchers installed cameras there. Over the course of 8,832 hours, they recorded everything that happened. And what they found is not an abstract threat from a scientific paper. These are specific people, tourists, school children on field trips, walking into the cave, standing inside it. And just only one out of 214, was wearing a mask. Inside this cave live thousands of bats, Egyptian fruit bats, and they carry the Marburg virus. The virus we are going to talk about today is not Hantavirus with its 30 to 50% fatality rate. Marburg's fatality rate is 24 to 88%. In some outbreaks, 90. No vaccine, no treatment. And tourists are walking into its home without masks. Stay with me because what I'm about to tell you about what happens to a person who gets infected is more frightening than anything you have seen in the news about Hantavirus. Before we go further, let me explain what the Marburg virus actually is, because most people have never heard of it, which is a mistake. Marburg is a close relative of Ebola. They belong to the same family, Filoviridae. This means their mechanism of action is similar. They attack virtually all organs simultaneously, and they do it quickly and brutally. The virus was first discovered in 1967, simultaneously in Marburg and Frankfurt in Germany and in Belgrade. 31 laboratory workers became infected while working with tissue from infected green monkeys imported from Uganda. 7 died. Since then, outbreaks have occurred in Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Ghana, Guinea, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda, the most recent major one in Ethiopia. In autumn 2025, the country's first ever outbreak. 14 confirmed cases, 9 deaths, a fatality rate of 64%. The WHO declared the outbreak over on January 26, 2026. But here is what is important to understand. Every single Marburg outbreak began the same way. A person entered a place where bats live, a cave, a mine, an old building, one contact, one infected person, and then a chain that is extremely difficult to stop. And now, what this virus actually does to the body. I should warn you, this is difficult to hear, but you need to know. Here is how Marburg disease develops. Step by step. The incubation period, 2 to 21 days. During this time, you feel perfectly healthy. You don't know you are infected. You live your normal life, you go to work, you hug your loved ones, you fly home from your holiday. Then, the first day of illness, sudden onset, high fever, severe headache, muscle pain. It looks like the flu, and that is precisely why it is so dangerous. People think it is the flu. They wait. They don't see a doctor. On the 3rd to 5th day, a rash appears. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps. And here is where what distinguishes Marburg from most other diseases begins. On the 5th to 7th day, hemorrhagic manifestations. This means bleeding, from the nose, from the gums, from injection sites. Sometimes, internal bleeding. The virus attacks the vascular system in such a way that blood stops clotting normally. Simultaneously, damage to the liver, kidneys, and nervous system. On the 8th or 9th day in severe cases, death occurs from massive hemorrhage, from multi-organ failure, from shock. Why so fast? Because Marburg literally deceives the immune system, it suppresses the primary immune response, the very one that should stop the virus at the very beginning. The body doesn't have time to understand what is happening. By the time the immune system begins to react, the virus is already everywhere. I have told you how people die. Now, how they get infected. And this is where the story of the cave becomes genuinely personal. Let's go back to Python Cave, April 2026. The journal Current Biology publishes a study, the result of 8,832 hours of video surveillance. Scientists led by Dr. Alexander Bratkowski of the University of Queensland tracked everything that happened in and around the cave over 5 months, from February to June 2025. Here is what they saw. 321 encounters between different species, at least 14 animal species. Leopards hunting bats inside the cave, blue monkeys catching and eating bats, vultures, baboons, monitor lizards, pythons, which gave the cave its name, and people. 214 people during the observation period, tourists, schoolchildren, researchers, one wearing a mask. The national park rules require visitors to keep a distance of at least 30 meters from the cave entrance. Many visitors violated this rule. Some went inside. Why is this so dangerous? Because part of the cave roof has collapsed. The bats now live much closer to the ground, some right on the floor or low on the walls. The distance between a tourist and an infected bat is sometimes literally a few centimeters, and the virus is transmitted through bat saliva, urine, and droppings, which coat the cave walls. This has already happened. In 2008, a Dutch woman visited this cave. She went home, and she died from Marburg disease. An American woman who was with her was later retrospectively diagnosed with Marburg. She survived. Python Cave has already killed tourists, and tourists continue to go there. But wait, this is not the most alarming part. Next, I will tell you what the cameras captured involving leopards and monkeys, and why this could be the trigger mechanism for the next pandemic. Here is what makes the cave story truly alarming for scientists, and why this concerns not just tourists in Uganda. Dr. Bratkowski explained it this way. This research could be critical in helping us understand how a virus might jump from one species, in this case the Egyptian fruit bat, to an intermediate host like a blue monkey or leopard. Here is what that means in practice. Bats carry the virus, but don't get sick. Their biology has adapted to coexist with it. A leopard hunts a bat, the leopard eats it. The virus enters the leopard's body. What happens next, we don't know exactly, but if the virus adapts to the leopard or to the monkey, it may mutate, become different, become more transmissible to humans. And now imagine a hunter encounters a sick leopard, or village residents consume wild animal meat, which incidentally happens regularly in this region. A 2025 study found that 8% of residents in western Uganda reported illness after eating bushmeat. This is exactly how all previous pandemics began. AIDS, through contact with chimpanzee blood, Ebola, through bats or monkeys. COVID-19, most likely through bats. Every time, one moment, one contact. That then changes everything. Scientists use the term spillover event, and Python Cave right now is the ideal location for such an event, because there simultaneously exist the virus, animals that contact it, and people who enter without protection. Researchers have already presented their findings to the leadership of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. They are recommending strict visitor controls, mandatory protective equipment, and trained local guides. These measures have not yet been implemented, and now the most important question: can Marburg become the next pandemic? I will give you an honest answer. Not the one that frightens, but the one that is accurate. Let me be completely honest with you, because you deserve an accurate answer, not a sensation. The current assessment of the WHO and most leading epidemiologists, Marburg in its current form is unlikely to become a pandemic. Here is why. A pandemic requires sustained human-to-human transmission, at scale without prolonged close contact. Marburg is transmitted through direct contact with an infected person's bodily fluids, blood, saliva, vomit. This is not airborne transmission like influenza or COVID. Historically, Marburg outbreaks have been relatively localized precisely because infection requires very close contact. Healthcare workers became infected while caring for patients without adequate protection. Family members while caring for the sick at home. But, and this is a critically important but, viruses mutate. In 2025 to 2026, the frequency of Marburg outbreaks is increasing. Rwanda in 2024, Ethiopia in 2025. Scientists writing in the Journal of Emergency and Disaster Medicine stated directly in April 2026, this raises serious concerns regarding the increasing frequency of Marburg outbreaks and the potential to cause a global pandemic. Estimates suggest that 19 to 27 African countries with a population of 75 to 105 million people are at risk of Marburg infection. And the main question virologists are asking, what happens if the virus mutates toward easier transmission? That has not happened yet. But every outbreak is another opportunity for the virus to adapt, and every unprotected tourist in Python Cave is another chance for the virus to take that step. Good news, a vaccine is being developed. The Sabin Institute launched Phase 2 clinical trials of a vaccine in the US, Kenya, and Uganda in 2025. First results were expected in April 2026, and finally, what you can specifically do. Because this is not an abstract threat from Africa, it concerns you directly, and here is why. Here is what you need to know, concretely and practically. First, if you are planning travel to Africa, and especially to Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, or any other country where Marburg outbreaks have been recorded, read the current CDC and WHO travel advisories before you go. Check whether there are bat caves in the area of your travel. If there are, stay away, at least 30 meters. Do not enter. Second, if you are planning ecotourism, safari, or birdwatching in Africa, ask your tour operator what protective measures are in place. Properly organized tours in Marburg risk regions do exist, but entering bat caves without protection is Russian roulette. Third, symptoms that should alert you if you have returned from Africa and feel unwell within 3 weeks: sudden high fever, severe headache, muscle pain. See a doctor immediately and tell them you were in Africa. This is critically important for getting the right diagnosis. Fourth, follow updates from WHO and CDC. I will do the same and tell you that is exactly what this channel is here for. And finally, what I want you to remember from this conversation: 214 people entered a cave hosting a virus with up to 90% lethality. One was wearing a mask. This is not a story about Africa. This is a story about human nature, about our ability to ignore warnings even when they are written on a sign at the cave entrance. The next pandemic will begin exactly this way, not from a laboratory, not from a conspiracy, but from someone walking somewhere they should not have gone and not wearing a mask.